Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Nicole, host of the show, mindset coach, and motivational speaker. I've made it my mission to help you get unstuck, shift your mindset, and understand your worth to help you live your most purposeful life. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or a positive thought that will leave you inspired and empowered to win your life. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we invest our energy. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm really excited. I feel like I repeat myself every single week with how excited I am for my next guest because I truly am. I'm so grateful to get to interview all these incredible people. But today in specific, we have Maggie O'Reilly, and she's the founder and designer of MAYTA Collection. And it's a boutique ethical fashion label fueled by a love of travel, culture, and high-quality artisan craftsmanship. Maggie travels frequently and has connected with many artisans on her journeys. Each collection is inspired by the colors, textures, and people that she encounters while exploring marketplaces worldwide. And Maggie launched MAYTA Collection in 2016 to share her unique designs with the world. So her line of fashion accessories and home goods are unique. They're colorful and thoughtfully designed. Each piece is handcrafted in small batches and repurposing textiles and preserving heritage. Their team works with artisans from Morocco and Peru to source textiles and leather that would otherwise have been discarded. And they then create statement pieces that will breathe new life into the product. So Maggie,
Yes.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me and having me on. It's a joy to talk and connect with people, and I'm just appreciative of the fact that you invited me in. So thank you.
You're so welcome. I honestly, the feeling is mutual, and I'm really excited to have you here because your business and your brand and what you do is so unique. And I've never seen anything like it, honestly. And I know that there's, you see so many different things when you go to markets and this and that, but I feel like the story here behind your business is different. And I really, really love that. So, to sort of dive in, could you tell us a little bit about, the journey that's brought you to where you are?
Sure. I feel like my entrepreneur businesswoman spirit has been something that always existed. I grew up with a mother and father that both owned their own companies, pretty much a family type of business, chipping in where needed. So that's always been a part of something that I feel passionate about. In particular, I went ahead and started studying Spanish in high school because you had to choose a language. And I went into studying it in college, and that's where I realized that I had a really strong interest and passion for the Latin American language, the culture, the people, the food, and everything. So I did a lot of traveling after college. I went and lived in Mexico for some time, Argentina, wow. And always scoured and visited the markets and brought things back for family and friends. And they'd say, oh, next time you go, could you pick me up this kind of earrings or something like that? So that was always just kind of like a fun thing that I did while traveling. But fast forward a few years, I ended up meeting my husband, who is from Peru in South America. And when we went there, like a light bulb went off, right? Because I had this history of like enjoying Latin America and everything like that. And we had visited his family a few times in Lima, and then had gone to visit Cusco when we traveled and went through all the markets. And so that's where I decided that I could make something and create a brand around my love of textiles and culture and things like that. So thanks to my husband, he kind of pushed me forward in beginning that.
Oh, I love that story. That's amazing to have, sort of like your love kind of ingrained into your business. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I know, it's kind of like, well, of course I'd marry someone from Peru because I had such a love for, Latin American culture. But we met each other. We both worked at a hotel, and who would have known that like all of his family lived there and that he had such strong connections to back where he lived. So yeah,
Oh,
that's where it started.
where did the name come from?
Sure. So the name MAYTA Collection, MAYTA
Oh,
is
sorry, I
actually a Quechua
completely
word.
mispronounced
No,
it.
that's
Sorry.
okay. So the vast majority of people do say MAYTA just because phonetically in English, that's how it is. But it's actually a Quechua word. And throughout different areas of Peru, specifically like in the Andes and in Cusco, Quechua is one of the primary language. I mean, they have many, many languages. So I wanted to name my company in respect of all the people that I had encountered and spoken to. And then above that, my husband's father, who is from the outer areas of Lima, he actually is fluent in Quechua. And he even wrote a book in Quechua. So I just thought, knowing him and kind of him teaching me a few words and then meeting such a wide variety of people who speak that language, MAYTA is actually meaning Inca king. So it was just like a good representation of like what I wanted the brand to represent and how I wanted those values of like family and artisans and culture to all be tied together.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. That
Yeah.
sounds like such a good fit. That's amazing. And I guess travel really has inspired your brand from the very start,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it was sort of
Yes.
born while you were traveling. And I'd love to know, like, how do you find the inspiration for all of your pieces?
Sure. So I'm somebody, I love color, I love texture, I love fabrics and things like that. And primarily when you travel through markets in and around Latin America, and I work with Morocco as a country as well. Without in the markets and the souks and everything, color and bright and pattern is all over the place. And so whenever I'm walking through any of the markets, I always stop to talk to the people, learn about the piece, understand the historical aspect of the piece, the history behind it, because a lot of the pieces are made from small groups, primarily like family or women and things like that. And those traditions are handed down time and time again through those communities. And so I just think that for pieces that have so much color, are really rich in history, and there's such a strong meaning behind those. So yeah, that's really where things begin.
Um, okay, so I mean, clearly you're working with like textiles that are from different parts of the world. And so what does that process look like of,
Sure.
bringing through all of these beautiful textiles, but also like, has it ever created any challenges that you've maybe
Mm-hmm.
found have been harder to sort of navigate?
Sure. So I think in business in general, we're probably presented with challenges, if not on a daily basis, at least a weekly basis. And also, I believe that with a company, especially like mine, which I consider relatively new still, it's only been a few years, a lot evolves. So when I first started, or when I knew that I wanted to begin, it was like fall of 2016. I was on maternity leave. So I had some extra time on my hands, and that's where I was really able to kind of collect my thoughts, think through what I wanted my brand to represent, how I wanted that story to connect with all of my pieces. And so I started to just reach out and make phone calls to different groups and people that I had met in traveling to Peru. And I started off small. So I would either make small collections of pieces or see what those groups had been working on and make small modifications to those, and give feedback on things. And then as time went on and I started to learn the design process more, I should mention that I'm not a designer by trade. So it was something that, you learn, you fail sometimes, or you take reference from talking with other designers or people who represent brands. And I just kind of put that into work. And so we've evolved, and now that's probably why it was so easy for me back in 2018 to transition to creating products in Morocco. You know, if that would have been the first country that I experienced, you know, I do not speak their language, so I think that there would have been some really strong challenges there. But because of the issues and successes and learnings I had from Peru when I went to Morocco, I was really able to nail down what I needed, what I was looking for in a workshop, who I could have by my side, who understood the quality that I needed, the consistency that I needed, respecting, you know, timelines of product being shipped and understanding the shipping process. So I had taken all of that from Peru, where I was familiar with the language, I was a little bit more familiar with the culture, and then being able to move that over into Morocco and putting that into place. So in 2018, I was in Spain for business, and that's where I said to my husband, okay, you have to come to Barcelona so that then we can move on over to Morocco. And, you know, I hadn't known a lot about Morocco. I mean, early 2018, I feel like, at least for myself, Morocco wasn't as publicly travel and fashion and just everything like that. I mean, I knew that I needed to go to Marrakesh, and that's kind of where I started. So we spent a full week just moving around, visiting workshops, talking to people, looking at textiles, understanding the process. They work a lot with leather and things like that. And like day after day after day, we visited, we requested samples. I think you have to be honest with feedback. You know, when you're working with people and you're kind of handing over that responsibility of making a product that you want at the level that it should be, you have to be very straightforward, but also kind and strict with people, so that when that product comes back in your hands, you can really dissect it and provide the necessary feedback. And so to this day, thankfully, which who knows, maybe it was God, maybe it was a little bit of luck, maybe it was some experience. In Morocco, I still work with the same gentleman that I had met face to face, and I took that risk on working on that first order. So a lot of it is just trial and error and experience, and taking risks, you know, taking risks that you're comfortable with, maybe even comfortable with. But I feel like sometimes, especially when you do own your own business and it is you as the main person, you have to stick your neck out, and you have to weigh the pros and the cons, and be willing to fail and be okay with that. So in a nutshell, that's how it works.
I love that what you just said right there, you know, being kind of like knowing that, you know, failure could come, but it's not necessarily a failure. It's more just like something to learn from, and how are you going to do it differently and do it better next time, right? Like what will you improve on? That's really amazing too, though, that you're still working with the same gentleman. That's
I sing him praises, you know, because I'm here in the US and I have my workshop in Morocco and my other one in Peru. I'm somebody, no matter what, that like values like friendship and family. So aside from them actually making my product, it's very high on the top of my list to really step back and talk to them and, you know, show them pictures of my kids playing in the snow because they don't have snow there, asking how, you know, how far away his sister is from graduating college, or, oh, you're headed to that wedding this weekend, make sure you send me a picture, to just really have that human connection, because I think that the person will value you more. They want to do, you know, well for you. They want to produce a product that in your mind is high quality. So aside from them just assembling and putting together the designs, it's important to step back and have that human connection. And I value that with both of my artisan partners.
Oh, that's amazing. So what kind of, I know you make bags. What, is there anything else in specific that you make?
So primarily now, which again, business is always evolving, but what has come to be is Peru, because they have lots of sheep and alpaca and things like that. I focus more on interiors with Peru. So lots of different pillows. I've just recently worked on a customized pillow collection. So we hand dye all of the yarns. I work with interior designers who either in turn work with their clients if they want, a special color palette, or if they're working within a cafe and they need, a certain kind of color scheme. So with Peru, we do a lot more of pillows, blankets, things like that. And then in Morocco, I've had more success with making actual leather goods. So more like.
I want to quickly pause this interview and tell you about the Handel Group coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of bringing onto the Happiness Happens podcast. With every conversation and interview, I've learned something so impactful and so life-changing. Inner You Life is the online coaching course from Handel Group that gives you the tools to get yourself unstuck, wildly happy, and thriving where it matters most to you. Your relationship to yourself, career, love, body, money, time, and more. From wherever, whenever. Recommended by Hugh Jackman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Forrest Whitaker, Elena Brower, and hundreds more. Taught in MIT, Stanford School of Business, and 50 plus institutes of learning across the world. Visit inneryou.coach and use the code HappinessHappens at checkout for $75 off. Now, back to the episode.
Good. So more like accessories for women primarily, but soon enough, I am actually in the midst of designing some more masculine products, I would say. So right now, both more like my travel bags and purses and things like that come from Morocco.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about the ethical process behind it. We don't have to go into like all of the specific details, but I know that it's an ethical brand, an ethical company, and in a world where it's like, use all the faux stuff,
Yes.
what is sort of you and your company's like position on this?
Yeah. So one of the most important things that I view from a company is there is no middleman, meaning I'm not working through some other sort of organization or person and then they're talking to the workshop. So I have direct contact with them, which means that when the goods are ready, I'm paying them directly. So there's no hidden costs. There's no one who's passing off that money to the workshop. They're getting 100% of the price that they're requesting. Secondly, we work currently with what we call like a small batch model, which means that we are not producing 1,000, 2,000 pieces of a product. We try and focus on repurposing textiles that otherwise might be discarded. So, there's textiles that could be repaired, and my hope is that they are, especially like rugs and different kilims and things like that. But there are some things that are either damaged and beyond means of repair. And those are the textiles that we then use to make our product. So oftentimes when we're making a travel bag or a set of pillows, it's difficult to make 5, 6, 7, 8 of the same, because we might only have a textile where 2 or 3 pieces are salvageable to turn into a bag. So we focus a lot on reusing the materials and not creating additional waste by creating new weaving. So that's another thing that we really try and work towards. And then the other thing is, especially with the dyeing process, in particular with Peru, I mean, it's all sheep wool. All of the colors that we work with are all naturally dyed, which means we use the resources from the land. So different plants, foods, tree pieces, those are all used to dye the yarn. And then everything is woven by hand. So all of the textiles and weavings, they're all woven by hand. It's no machine. And then because we do use that small batch model, we work with small workshops. So we don't have a factory where there's, 100 people. It's usually like a man and his cousin and a few of his brothers, or it's like a woman, her daughter, and, a few of other community members, and they're there making the products for us. So it's tight, it's community driven. The money is put right back into their community so that they could help each other, and that, they can go out and buy goods and foods and things like that for their family. So that's really what we're about.
Oh, I love that. It sounds like a family, like a very, close, tight-knit family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that shows through in the love that, that they put into your product, that, in turn people get to have in their homes and use. Yeah. So what would you say, like, the significance of, traveling for yourself, but also, for your family? Like, what is significant about travel for you?
Sure. So ever since, I come from my family, we didn't explore outside the country too much. It just, my parents were not used to that. It wasn't something that they grew up with. But from early on, probably like college to start, I can remember I told my parents, like, okay, I'm going to go study in Mexico. And they were like, well, why would you do that? And I said, because I want to understand that. So after college, I continued to travel, and then I was just a job that would allow me to continue to travel. So I moved into the hospitality industry. So I worked for a hotel chain, and we were able to travel, and stay at all the different hotels. And what I soon started to recognize, even up through like my mid-30s, is especially traveling like alone and as a woman, that you learn a lot about yourself when doing that. And it's bravery in some ways. It'd be very easy to travel to a place, even if it's on business, and like stay at the hotel and eat in the hotel restaurant and just walk across the street to the shopping mall. But I encourage people, especially like women, to go outside and maybe stick their neck out a little bit and try and discover something different and learn something different that maybe isn't, a common popular thing. So I think from a woman traveler standpoint, that's very, I feel very strongly about experimenting with that and trying that and having the courage to go to places by yourself. As a family, my husband has always really been into travel. He didn't have that opportunity when living in Peru to travel a lot. So we both strongly enjoy travel. And I think now, as we're together and we have our family, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. I mean, from the minute that they were born, we didn't let that hold us back. So, I mean, we got married in Peru. My daughter got baptized in Peru. They've been to Colombia. We've gone to Mexico. We've traveled extensively throughout the United States. And I just always try and teach them something while we're there. So with young kids, obviously you have to mix like what I call like education with pleasure, right? So, and you might not be able to go as fast paced if it was like my husband and I, but perfect example is we went to Tulum, Mexico last spring break. And instead of just going around and like only seeing the main cultural things, we went into downtown Tulum and we kind of discovered a small restaurant owned by, again, a family. And we take that moment to explain to our children how like things are different in other countries and how you have to respect their cultural differences. And maybe I do believe at a young age, they recognize that maybe some people do not have the means, or they're not fortunate enough yet at this point to live like you. And I could tell in particular with my 6-year-old, he can recognize a different culture and appreciate it, and says, oh, are they speaking French? Or, oh, I think that man is speaking British. And he's very in tune with travel and culture, just because we try to educate them when we are in these places.
Oh my God, that's so sweet though.
Yeah.
And I think it like teaches you so much. I mean, I think every time that I've traveled, I love to travel. And every time I've traveled, you learn something. You know what I mean? It opens your mind completely to another possibility, a different way of living, you know, especially when you travel to, like, I love Barcelona. It's one of my favorite places. And like the slowness of like like taking some time to relax, like enjoying the moment for what it is. Like it's the little things.
They're
that I
really
think,
good at having long lunches. You're like, wait, I could sit for like 2.5 hours and no one's knocking on my shoulder to be like, okay, so time for the next one. It's like embracing their culture and respecting it and kind of being like, okay, I can work with this. I can enjoy a long lunch and sip on red wine, and you know,
I could eat all of the delicious food and I go back to work later on. But it's amazing. It teaches you like a whole different way, instead of like, you know, constantly grinding, constantly hustle and bustle, like constantly doing all these things. You actually get the chance to live. Like, who would have thought that you could actually live in your life? You know what I mean? Oh man. So in terms of like, you know, traveling as like a solo woman and, you know, getting all of that experience, you know, what's it like to be able to collaborate with other, you know, women owned businesses as well as, yeah. Oh, I can't hear you anymore. Did I go on mute? Hello? No. Let's see. What about now?
no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. It said muted by host. And I was like, okay, wait, maybe I have to mute myself. So what I was going to say is, when I began my business, I don't think I realized how important collaboration, in particular with other women-owned businesses, how important it was going to be to me. But it's probably at the top of my list of something that I really value and I put of high importance with my brand. And I mean, that's even, you know, I use Instagram a lot, and I feel like that's a consistent message that I convey to my followers or any of my new followers, that just partnering up with someone, teaming up with someone on like a collaboration. Like most recently, it was like International Women's Day. And I was trying to brainstorm an idea like, okay, how can I use this day, which is so important for so many women, and like shine the light on some of my peers and colleagues, whether they're within this industry or they're just starting or they've been in the business. And so I kind of put together this thing and reached out to some women and said like, hey, I'd love to tell your story on my platform, just to share it, right? Just to generously allow people to tell their story. So that was something really fun. And then during this time where we are having to keep to ourselves and stay home, I was like, again, how can I still connect with people? Because that, to me, I'm very much someone who likes to connect face to face, meet for coffee. Let's brainstorm an idea. And with us having to keep to ourselves because of things going on, I wanted to try and, again, create that atmosphere of collaborating and connecting and uplifting one another. So I kind of said like, okay, we could do like virtual coffee or virtual cocktails or something like that. And so that's been really beneficial. But yeah, it's at the top of my list. I feel like it's really important. I'm somebody who like will send a message to somebody or respond to a post and be like, yeah, I would love to hear more. I would love to join in, or yes, let's talk about a certain topic. It just, it fuels my fire, and it's something I just have great respect for people and to learn their journey, right? It's like everyone's always coming from all these different reasons as to why they are where they are right now, why they started their business, why they do, started a second business if they work full time. And it's just interesting to hear everybody coming together and like learning, what their why was for starting something.
I love that you said what their why was, because that's something that's so important to me too, is, why are you doing what you're doing before you can figure out how or what? Why do people care? You know what I mean? Like, why do you want to do it? Oh, I love that you said that. So good. And what's something that keeps you going when you're feeling stuck?
Yes. I mean, I will be honest that I'm probably like 90% like an optimistic person. I really try to take whatever situation there is and like take a step back and understand like why that's happening, right?
Mhm.
So I think the energy about other women business owners, it's a great energy, and I feel like it moves me forward. I feel
Yeah.
like I am a leader in some instances, especially within my community. So I love gathering groups of people, brainstorming ideas, listening in on, a challenge that some other business owner might be having, and we could talk it out. But a lot of my positivity also, I think, comes from my husband and my family. He really does a great job of kind of listening to anything, or if I am feeling challenged or I'm struggling or I'm questioning myself, he's much more like the analytic finance type of person, and he'll be able to kind of like drill down and be like, okay, Maggie, is that the right move? Is that the smartest decision to do right now? Or he'll just cheer me on. It just depends. And so I think it's a little bit of my personality.
Yeah.
It's something that I grew up with. My parents were always severely supportive and encouraging, and it just kind of, with the help of my husband and seeing my kids and even my aunt and uncles, it's a constant flow of positivity, and I try to use that to the best of its ability. So
That's amazing. You're so lucky to have all of that support and all of that love, you know what I mean?
yes.
And then, I feel like that's like the driving force behind making you feel empowered and good enough to do your business and to take the leap and to take the chance, Can you hear me? It went on mute again. It's so weird. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Mm-mm. No. So strange. Okay. Yeah. No, you're
There?
back. Yeah, that was so weird. Why does it keep going on mute automatic? That's weird.
Because I have my hands up here. I use my hands a lot.
Me too.
I'm always like, whoo!
You know what? I feel like people have been using, I use Zoom to record these interviews, right? And I feel like so many people have just been like on the system that it's kind of like overloading the system a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's just like a glitch in the system.
No, I think so. Because I do a lot of like meetings and events in my full-time job, we had some conversations with some like production companies, and they said that like every sort of conferencing system, whether it be Zoom or something like that, is on overload right now.
My gosh.
So it wouldn't surprise me.
Not in the slightest.
Yeah, it's being wacky. But to that earlier point, I recognize that I am supported by a lot of people, and I don't go a day without like appreciating that and recognizing that that's not always the case. But I thank my family, and I thank God every day that that's the current environment that I'm in. So
oh, that's amazing. And just get to be such an amazing, role model for your kids, and that your kids will grow up knowing that they can literally do anything that they want to do.
Oh yeah. And they're already, I mean, it's funny how they like talk about the business, and then they say, oh, are you packing that box? Do you need me to grab the tape? Like, they're very involved because they don't know anything else. And I think they probably see the joy that I have with the brand and the business, and they see how my husband and I like talk and strategize and things like that. So it shines through with our daily household activities. So yeah, they love to be involved.
That's so cute. It's like full family business. That's awesome. So where could our listeners find you, and where could our listeners find your products so they can go and check them out? There we go.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay, so I have a website, www.MAYTA Collection.com. So Our latest product listings are there. They're all unique, one of a kind. So if you saw something and it piqued your interest, we always say you better grab it before it goes. And then I'm on all the standard social media platforms. I love Instagram. It's been a great way for me to connect and find opportunities and give people a little bit behind the scenes of like myself, my business, my artisans, projects that I'm working on. And then we have a wonderfully beautiful Pinterest inspiration board for people as well. So that's been fun to create these past few months, and Facebook as well.
Oh, yeah. I love that. And this is my last question for you. And it's a question that I ask all of my guests when they come on the show. And it's, how could you create a little more happiness every day starting today?
Sure. So I feel like ways to create happiness changes with lifestyle, things going on in your life. I would say the past few weeks, again, given the circumstances, is I wake up early, about like 45 minutes to an hour earlier than my kids. And, I'm in Chicago, so unfortunately the weather hasn't been great. So I go down and I run on my treadmill. I'm with my own time. I watch a show because otherwise I'm watching kids shows, and dedicated like hour and a half to myself to just kind of like clear my head, do exercise, think through my day. Meanwhile, like my husband and I have come to this agreement, like he'll get the kids up, he'll feed them breakfast and get them dressed. And I just feel like my day improves and it makes me happy. Whether my day goes crazy and I have, not accomplished anything on my to-do list, it's like, oh, well, I ran today. I made that time for myself so that then I could have that time with my kids and my family and things. So right now it's been waking up and selfishly hitting the treadmill or going outside if I can and getting a run in just to, I watch shows, I listen to podcasts, audiobooks. I try and pack it all in onto that, me time to then really like be ready for the day and be happy.
And set yourself up for success. I love that.
Yeah. Yes. That's a big one.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for being on the show today.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing all of your beautiful insight and your amazing business with all of us. It really is unique, and it's just inspiring to see something different that's just so fun all at the same time.
Yeah, I love color. I love creating. I love the challenge that having a business comes with, but it's also rewarding at the same time. So yeah. I love the fact of being able to share that with you and your listeners, and just being able to connect with people who, might be curious about starting a business or feeling a little down. It just, yeah. So thanks again for having me and for taking time to do this.
Oh my gosh, pleasure is all mine. Thank you. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. If you love this as much as I do, please let us know online. Tag both of us. I'll put our handles in the show notes so that you can see them, and let us know what you loved. Let us know what resonates. And until then, have a beautiful week. And remember that happiness happens when you are least expecting it. Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or a review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.